All right, welcome to a very special on-location edition of Deep Dive with Dr. Fitz. I am your host, Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, Superintendent of Schools in the Schuylkill Haven Area School District. And if you haven't guessed by the giant sign behind me, we are on location today, and all of the Schuylkill Haven area is rejoicing to know that Plain and Fancy is back in business, and we're going to have not just information about school, but a little information about Plain and Fancy. Let me introduce you to my guest today. This is Maddy Miller. Maddy's a social worker on our... I'm messing with you. You're not Miller. Mike Miller's at the end. He's the general manager here. Maddy's name is too hard to pronounce. It's Tarantelli. I got it right. We'll just call her Maddy T.
You got a good paisan name. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Scott Burcik. I can't mess that name up. That's pretty easy to pronounce. Would you maybe marry a Miller in the future? No, you just got married.
I think I'm going to stick with it.
Yes, great. We're going to have a lot of fun, though, today.
Yeah.
As you can see, we all have a little bit too much sugar in us already on this exciting episode of Deep Dive with Dr. Fitz. But let's start with General Manager Mike Miller. 12 days. You guys have been open 12 days. And when the word got out that Plain and Fancy was closing, it was a sad time.
I understand that people lined up. Some people waited 8-9 hours. A woman over here sitting talked about how she waited 9 hours to get the last bit of sticky buns, and they were out when she got to the door. She just missed. She was lying 7-8 hours.
Yeah.
And Tiffany Youse, the majority owner, she wanted to bring this back to life. She bought it off the widow Lonnie McEwen of Jim McEwen, who had it for so many years. Back in 22, right after Lonnie stopped. It was July of 22 was when the last product rolled out until just 12 days ago.
Wow.
So it's been a long storied history, an iconic place here in Schuylkill Haven for so many, people growing up.
Yeah, I can't tell you how impressed I am. By the way, if you get a chance, stop in here, see it in person, but talk about some of the changes that have been made here.
Well, this time around, Tiffany had a vision and was to have this dining room that we're sitting in. But not only do pretzels and the pretzels, the bear claws, the sticky buns, which we're working on. We're still considering it like a soft opening. Yeah. So please bear with us. We're changing some of the equipment, updating a few of the equipment. So we're coming. Yeah. We're coming to the idea of sticky buns. So we got all the originals. We're getting them out every day. We're going to add the rest of the originals. And then we're going to have the fancy. We're playing on the name, Plain and Fancy. The fancy donuts are going to be a creme brulee donut or a cannoli donut, things like that. And then we're adding, the other twist is having breakfast sandwiches. Tiffany also had an interest in a pretzel stand down at Renninger's Market. So she's now came up with the idea that we're making pretzel rolls, and we do breakfast sandwich, ham, egg, and cheese, bacon, egg, and cheese, sausage, egg, and cheese on that. At lunch, we're doing hamburger, cheeseburgers, cheesesteaks, brisket, pulled pork, all on homemade fresh pretzel rolls every morning. Wow. Our head cook, Joe Valente, is in there, and he designed the pretzel rolls to go from there a step further. He then created a pretzel pizza crust, which is a little bit sweet and adds a real uniqueness to the pizza. So if you've never had pretzel crust pizza, we're offering that. And we're here every day from 6 to 2, for your breakfast, lunch needs. Everybody keeps asking, are you staying open later? Let us just master the 6 to 2.
Right.
We'll take orders in advance. But, that's kind of the gist of where we're at. We have gelato that we're going to be offering, because at some point we might be doing a special donut where it's cut in half. You pick your donut, and then we put a flavor of gelato in the middle of it.
Right there on the spot.
Right on the spot.
Wow.
Yes. Come in the front. As soon as you come in the front door, you'll see the gelato counter.
Now you wish you were Maddy Miller, don't you? Now that you hear all the great things Miller's doing over there. So this is exciting for the community. And that's what this podcast is about, talking about our school and how our school integrates into the community.
Absolutely.
And the big thing I needed to know, and I've learned already, The beautiful vanilla sprinkle donut is still on the menu.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think Scott's got the glazed over there, my second favorite. So the good old stuff is still
absolutely.
on the
We
menu.
just added cake donuts in the last day because that's everybody's favorite. And I can see you have some pumpkin here, chocolate cake donuts. They're just glazed. We'll be icing them. We'll be adding Long Johns. I know everybody's excited about the Long Johns. Like I said, it's a work in progress. We have a great baking crew that are working really hard to try and perfect all the originals. And Lonnie, the surviving member, Jim's wife, is coming over and helping 2-3 hours at night to keep the tradition alive, keep that taste alive. And we're trying. All we're asking is, and people have been so understanding. This is a work in progress. You know, you're opening a new business. You're making decisions on the fly. You're changing things, trying things. You know, we love hearing from everybody, and they have over 3,000 followers when the new Facebook page came out about 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
So people have been so supportive.
Right. Well, we've got a live studio audience with us today.
We do. People are coming in the morning doing their coffee. We also have TVs here, internet here. So if you want to come, have a coffee, donut, breakfast sandwich. We're also doing lattes, ice brews, cappuccinos, espresso. So we're doing them all. You don't have to go to that D word anymore. You don't have to go there. You can come here and get your caramel lattes and get all you with whipped cream and the whole 9 yards. Come here. We're right here. We're a lot closer than going to Pottsville or Hamburg. We're right here.
Love it. Good stuff. Mike Miller, ladies and gentlemen, general manager here at Plain and Fancy. I know you've got some work to do.
I have to go back and do pretzel rolls.
Yeah,
it's my day to do pretzel rolls.
Thank you, though, for spending a little bit of time with us.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. So let's talk school business now. It's always great when we can be on location. If you need a bite of your donut to power you through, and by the way, I know what's behind your back. I know exactly what is behind your back. And I might keep calling you Maddy Miller if you pull that Mets hat out today. As we film this, we are all the Phillies fans are in mourning right now, but the Mets fans to my left are rejoicing these days. They've had a very good night, to say the least, but I don't think the general public realizes all of the different types of positions that are now part of our public schools. And let me start with you. I'll start with you, Maddy. We didn't have social workers when I was in school, probably needed them. And how do you fit into this mix of the daily education of kids?
So I have a caseload of students, both at the middle school and elementary level. There's students that have been identified, maybe they need help with social skills, some behaviors, kids that might need coping skills from traumas they've gone through. So I meet with them in groups, sometimes individually. At the middle school, we started more support service groups this year. So we're doing some of that. Scott is running some groups for kids, and then if they succeed and during the week on Thursday mornings they come and play basketball with me, so we're incorporating that too, which is really cool.
Love it. And Scott, your position completely different. I think it was how many years ago now do we add your position to the mix and said we just need that go-to person that can take that kid under his wing, go for a walk. Again, all over the campus, by the way. I see you at all the buildings, but talk about the title of your position and the role you play in our district.
Yeah, so 2019 was the first year, and behavioral intervention specialist. So my role changes. I try, when people ask me what I do, I tell them it changes per grade, per kid, per school, and it could be just about anything that would help that student at that time. So it could be a simple check-in, a daily check-in, a weekly check-in. It could be a teacher will flag me down and say, would you mind taking this kid for a walk? What's really great about this school is whatever I think could work for a kid is allowed.
Yeah.
So I have taken elementary kids for a walk to the middle school. I've taken middle school kids to the elementary school. I've been able to meet up with the kids that I've worked with through the time at the high school and continue my check-in with those students. So
I love when I walk by a classroom, and I'll see you guys at times even in the classroom. So are there times where you just stand by, stay next to a kid? Just sometimes they just need that extra hand. I love that. What are some of the most common challenges you're both seeing that our students are facing right now?
I think, like, even since I've been out of high school, like, mental health has become more talked about, but also a challenge our kids face. We have some kids who have a lot going on in their home lives that we work through, and I think that's a big thing. And escalating and learning those coping skills to de-escalate. Like, I think sometimes we forget that a lot of the behaviors or the way they're acting is a form of communication because they might not have those social skills in order to communicate. So I think that's important to remember. But I think a lot of working through those things they're going through at home and stuff like that.
Do you find yourselves as that conduit between what's happening at home and letting the teacher know, or letting, maybe it's the specials teacher know, who may only see that child once a week, hey, this is what's going on. We use the words handle with care, but I see both of you as that kind of middle ground, that person that can bridge that gap to say, don't worry about the homework this week. We're gonna work on that. We'll get it taken care of. But right now we need to heal from what they witnessed at home or what they've been through at home. How about you, Scott?
So I definitely see that. And what's good is the teachers are open to that, where I can just say, hey, we might need to back off. There's something going on. Yep. Nobody needs to know the rest.
Yep.
So a lot of my background is trauma trainings and certified and all that. And just knowing that you handle the same kid or any kid the same way.
Yeah.
So if they're going through something, it doesn't matter what specifically they're going through something.
Yeah.
So just knowing that we need to maybe step back a little bit, worry about what's either the student is going through at that time or what's on at home. And then we will take the next steps.
Yeah. I want to point out, too, that one of the things that Scott has done for us as well is a train-the-trainer model when we talk about safe crisis management. And so much has been, researched in regards to adverse childhood experience and the impact that has on trauma that students that come to us may have faced as early as 2-3 years old. They bring that to the table, and we now have all kinds of research that says the more adverse childhood experiences that you've experienced, whether you've experienced abuse, living in a home with alcoholism or drug use or divorce or death, or all of those things that we consider an adverse childhood experience, we now know that there are times that impacts someone's health as an adult. They're more susceptible to heart disease. And it's crazy to think that correlation is there. But what's exciting to me, and I'm wondering if either of you have had any experience with it, is the newest research that's showing some trauma-informed growth. Kids that have overcome a traumatic experience go on to be incredible adults or find themselves in incredible leadership positions. I guess it's kind of nice for you. You at least see that evolution from maybe first grade to eighth grade over the course of those 7 years, and see how much a young man or woman can grow up. But have you seen some of this growth that we're reading more about?
Yeah, so actually, that is one of the big things I talk about with all of my trauma trainings and stuff like that, is someone who has gone through something traumatic, if they have the support system, they can still grow through it, and they can do some really big things with what they've experienced and just the support system that they had through that time.
How about parents? Do either of you connect with parents? Is that something you let the teacher take care of? Start with you, Maddy, the kids you're working with.
I think it depends on the situation. If I have a student who is talking about something that went at home, it depends on what it is. I always tell them, if you're having thoughts of hurting yourself, hurting others, or something else, someone is hurting you, that's a conversation I need to have with your parents. But a lot of what they talk to me about is confidential. So I mainly connect with parents if there's an emergency or a crisis situation or at an IEP meeting. That's when I do most of my communication with parents.
Good. And sometimes I'm guessing parents could use some advice on how to better discipline their child, or how to better understand what their kid is going through, because let's be honest, we're in a world right now that is very different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Scott, how about you?
I think if there is communication with the parents, it's, for my situation, it's more of just letting them know that they do have the support here at school. We do have the services that we can help. I think that's what I was going to say earlier is in my previous years in the behavioral health field is there's not much outside of the school as much as years.
Yeah.
There wasn't this in school years ago, but there was more outside of school. Now it's sort of flipping. And just to let the parents know that we do have the help here at school.
Good. So obviously there are some specific programs and types of programs, one of which it comes to mind, something we've used in the past, a Trails program. And Scott, I'll let you start on this one. Explain what our Trails program was and did for our students, and then we'll talk a little bit about your role in that.
So I don't know how many years ago it was, but I know Ken Rossi and Mapalezza, they got connected with Yellow Breeches, and they're a special ed school that does these outsourcing through other schools. And so I connect with one of their staff members, and we meet up on trips. We travel to a certain location, and we decide on the tough part is who gets to go. And that's where, as a team, we sometimes get together and what these trips would help these certain kids. And it could get from a kid needing to be a leader, they get to go. A kid who needing to come to school, this would help them. So we would take these kids on trips such as indoor rock wall climbing, bike riding,
very cool.
Horseback riding, paddle boarding. We went on a 5-mile canoe trip, which was an interesting trip myself. I definitely I came home soaking wet that day. But it's these trips that some of these kids will never experience, period. It's also even the kids who might be able to do it again want to do it and things like that. So it's definitely fun and sort of putting some of these kids out of their where they're from.
Maddy, I know you weren't necessarily part of Trails, but any programs that you've been a part of or have seen work with kids, or anything you do that may be a little different from a normal school day for a kid?
I went on some of the Trails trips with him.
Good.
I think I went on the paddleboarding one and the rock climbing one, which was a cool experience because I interned at Yellow Breeches in my undergrad, so that was cool for me. But I think just getting the kids involved, like with the situation of like the groups we're running this year, like knowing that their skills are outside of the classroom. Like if they come to school, kids who are habitually truant, and knowing that they get to come and play basketball, that type of thing. I think it's cool too, like some of our classes are getting a little more involved. Like I know our life skills class is swimming this year, so I went and swam with them a couple times, and that's really cool. And just learning in a different environment than just the traditional classroom.
Good. I think the other thing that makes you two unique and special is that you do more than just work your day job with the school district. You work with kids outside of school. Approaching your first year of coaching? Let's talk about that.
Coach, yes.
All right. What are you going to be the head coach of?
Junior high girls basketball.
All right. What could go wrong? That sounds exciting to me. So, first year head coach. Are you excited? You nervous?
I'm excited. Ever since I graduated high school, I always volunteered. My dad was my head coach, so I volunteered with my dad. So I'm super excited to kind of follow in his footsteps and take the role as the head coach of junior high.
Are you still looking for an assistant coach?
I am.
All right. So if you'd like to assist Maddy, she's looking for an assistant coach. What are you doing next winter?
I'm only a fall season coach.
He doesn't coach in the winter. He only coaches in the fall, right? So, okay, good. That's exciting. And I do think that's another way to connect. And maybe you find that one or two kids that just needed something more, and you get to see them in the coaching realm. So, Scott, girls soccer is your gig, and what a gig it's been this year. What a great season. So talk about that.
Yeah, so this year, it's surprising for people outside of Haven, but the people within Haven, we knew we were capable of this. And I think the girls always need to get that little extra boost of the confidence of they're capable of doing this. We are 15-2-1 this year. We have 11 shutouts, and I think 6 of those shutouts we didn't even give up a shot. So in soccer, that's a pretty good feat in itself. And we also just scored our 100th goal during the regular season, which that is another team feat. So it's really good to see these girls, when they come together as a team, they can compete and beat just about any team in this county.
You were both athletes when you were younger. What have you learned from an athlete? Let's start with you, Maddy. From an athletic standpoint, how has that helped you in life?
I mean, especially like playing under my dad and him being my coach, like he instilled that back to basics, learning those basic skills for sports, but remembering the basics in life too. Like you're allowed to feel overwhelmed, but you can use those skills of feeling overwhelmed on the court as well. And like when you're in a high pressure game, that's really important. But I think like the basic stuff is important on the court and in life.
Yeah. And adversity, dealing with adversity, knowing that you're tired, knowing that you're famished and exhausted, and you still have a whole other half to play or a whole other quarter to play. I just think it's so important for our young men and women to experience. How about you, Scott?
I think for me, playing and coaching have gotten me through certain tough times in my life. Like whatever it was, like I could still go back to soccer, and then whatever's going on, it leaves me for a little bit. Like, and then my mind is more focused on the soccer, and I can have a sort of escape once in a while for that.
I want to tie this into something we talked about earlier, and that's mental health. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here when I tell each of you how critical the physical health piece is to a young adolescent's mental health. Is that hard to convey to someone that says, I don't feel like exercising, I don't want to play sports, I don't even want to walk down the hallway right now, I'm just unhappy and that's the way it is right now. But yet, when I see both of you, you're typically moving and walking with kids. And is that something that we're starting to get some traction on right now? Are kids starting to realize, wait a minute, when I do stay active and when I do exercise and when I am getting my blood flowing, I actually do feel better. And by the way, I like that sun, that big ball of fire feels kind of good on me right now because I see you outside with kids on the track, walking between the different buildings on campus. Are we getting anywhere with that with our kids? Are they starting to realize? Because we've got a lot of kids active right now in sports, more than we've ever had, probably in the history of our school. Maybe the biggest fall meet the Hurricanes night, wouldn't you say, that we've ever had? The field was packed with kids. And win, lose, or draw, those kids right now are active and feeling better about themselves. Are you seeing that?
And I think it's like hard until you do it. So like when we go on these trails trips, some of those kids feel better when we're out and moving and paddleboarding. They have to kind of experience it. And like, I know sometimes like even if I'm stressed out, like I'll go for a walk or whatever and like showing them like, hey, I do it too. It's okay. Right. But I think until they like, when they are stressed out, if we go for a walk and then they're like, oh, that helped. Like I feel a little better. So
I love hearing you say that because we also, you guys work with kids at all ages in our district, let's be honest. And there's times that it's easier to reach for a vape pen, it's easier to reach for nicotine or in some cases alcohol, drugs, as opposed to just getting outside and getting a walk, going on a trail, going for a hike, something like that. And I think what they learn is caught, not taught. So they see what you're doing. And I want you to hear that from me. Our students are seeing you take them outside. They know that you're taking them for a walk or to the gym to play basketball or out to the turf to play a little bit of soccer. I love that you do that. Keep doing that. You know, even though we're sitting in a donut shop, I should probably emphasize, we can eat these donuts because we get our 10,000 steps a day at least each and every day. And by the way, we are going to sample our donuts in just a second here. All right. Anything you want to add to that?
Actually, speaking of the trails, like, first specific thing that happened was the canoe trip. Yeah. I teamed up with a student and we tipped over the canoe. And I say we, maybe not just me, but and it's tough. And the rest of the people were ahead of us. Yeah. We were the last canoe. Yeah. So we didn't have anyone there to help us. And the student wanted to quit. Yeah. And I basically said, we cannot quit. Like, we got to flip this canoe back over, empty the water, flip it back over again, and then we needed to catch up. And he was like, okay, we got to do it. And we were able to just go through that step. So just in that thing of just some kids just want to quit when it gets tough. And with the athlete, that's where the adversity comes of if we quit, what happens? Like you just push and push and push. So
I love hearing this. This has been great. Again, anything you want to add? You've both been with the district now for a little while. I can't tell you how excited I am to have positions like yours in our school district, to be able to say to a parent, we've got someone that can help your child. We've got someone that can take your child to the side. I think our teachers appreciate you as much as I do, because you're helping acclimate sometimes new students into a setting and things of that. But anything you want to add here as we approach the fall season in schools, and we all know it gets a little tougher in the winter, but anything you want to say or add to the work that you're doing every day?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate the teachers just as much, because I think the biggest intervention that I use is my rapport. So the way that I try to build rapport is going into these classes when they're doing an arts and craft. I like going into the elementary art class, library, reading a book to a kid, and every teacher is open to me just walking in, sitting down with the student, joining in with whatever activity they're doing. And then it might not be with a student that I'm usually working with. It might be a different kid, and I bounce around, and the one kid that I'm working with might be at a different table, and then we join. It's just really good to just know that I am welcomed into every class, and it helps me build rapport with the kids. And that's for my position where I'm working with kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And the kid that when I first started here was the kindergarten group. Now they're in 6th grade. And I'm able to just jump into that group, and still they know me from kindergarten.
This is the kind of support we offer in the district. So, folks, I'm so proud you got to meet Scott's a behavior intervention specialist. Maddy's one of our social workers in the school district. And we have such a great, robust staff of support systems, K-12, and these two are just part of it. But it's that time that you've all been waiting for. Grab your donut. We're at Plain and Fancy. We welcome them back into business. Take your first sample. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's real good.
Mm-hmm.
What flavor did you go with that?
The peanut butter filled.
Good choice. Plain and Fancy is now open from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. We got a lot of folks that are watching us here today. They're in the dining area. This has been great. Thank you both. A, for coming, and B, for doing what you do every day. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Be sure to like and follow this podcast. Our YouTube channel is Schuylkill Haven Hurricanes Media. This has been Deep Dive with Dr. Fitz. Remember, make those positives so loud that the negatives are impossible to hear.